Okay, so we'll start with introductions. So, hi, I'm Peyton Davis. I'm your new elected president, and I'm super excited for this upcoming year. I am ending my junior year and I'll be a senior next year. And I'm currently interested in family law. I'll be applying to law school in the fall. So, if anyone has any questions for me, feel free to reach out. Okay, next, Sydney. Is Sydney here?
Hi, I'm Sydney, the new vice president, and I also am going to be a senior. I just finished everything with LSAT. So if anyone has any questions about anything, that's all very fresh on my mind. I'll also be applying for law school in the fall. And yeah, I'm super excited.
Hi everyone, my name is Michaela and I am the newly elected treasurer. I am currently a second year majoring in political science. Feel free to reach out through email or group me if you have any questions, and I'd be happy to help.
Hey everyone, my name is Alyssa Tepford. I am your newly elected secretary. I'm currently a junior, double majoring in criminology and sociology and minoring in women's studies, and I love talking about any of those if anyone is interested in learning more about that. Yeah, and I'm also applying to law school in the fall and taking the LSAT in August, if anyone wants to talk about that as well. So,
All right, awesome. So now we've seen this all semester. Just a reminder, maybe if you're interested in taking the LSAT over the summer and you want to do a test master's course, you can reach out to me about that. And just a reminder, next semester that we always have a scholarship. So make sure you're always attending events and getting your points in. Okay, Michaela.
All right, as the semester is ending, we encourage members to attend the upcoming director events and making sure you have earned all your points. Keep in mind that directors need to earn 60 points and members have to earn 45 points to be considered active. Just to quickly go over the breakdown, general body meetings are 5 points, in-person director events are 4 points, Zoom director events are 2 points, and special events are 5 points. Feel free to reference the point sheet on Facebook to make sure you have all your points. And if you have any questions, make sure to still contact Peyton at her email that's listed on the screen. Lastly, if you are graduating this semester, make sure to contact Mikhail about courts, and his email is also on the screen.
okay, and that brings us to our calendar, which has all of our events, our meetings, anything that the directors are putting on. So please make sure you join the Google Calendar so you know everything and you're up to date at all times. You can do that by going into your Google Calendar and then pressing Add Calendar, and then you just put in our email, ufprelegal@gmail.com. And then that brings us to today's meeting, which is our final GBM of the semester. How exciting. And today we have Matthew T. Blackshear, who's going to be our speaker today. And yeah, get excited.
Okay, so for director applications, those just came out. Super exciting. I released those, I think, last week, and they will be due on April 24th at 11:59 p.m. The application can be found on Facebook. I'll send it again in GroupMe. It is on our Instagram on the link tree. So definitely check that out if you're interested in getting more involved in PLHS. And we're going to have interviews on reading days, the 27th and the 28th. It'll be from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Library West. And we can do a Zoom option if you've already left for finals or just need that option. Just let us know when you're signing up. And I'll sign signups on April 25th after the applications close. And if you're interested in specific positions or just don't know much about them, we have the descriptions of each directorship and all of the requirements to be a director. It's all listed on the application. And you do have to be an active member, so have paid your dues, and you have gotten the point requirement by the end of the semester, which is 45 points if you're a regular member. And we have 20 positions open. That's a lot. And there's all different kinds. We have like intramurals, internal affairs, special events, like a bunch of different types of directorships. So definitely check them out if you're interested. I was a special events director and then worked my way to being on the executive board. And I've just been super involved in PLHS since my freshman year. So I definitely recommend it. And yeah, you can reach out to the directors in the specific positions that you're interested in. And also feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to reach out to anyone on the current or the new executive board with questions that you have. Okay, and now we're doing director announcements. So it'll be the old e-board doing it, just to clarify.
All right, let's start with intramurals then.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jacob Stein. I'm one of your co-directors for intramurals, and our last event of the semester is happening tomorrow. That's going to be our ping pong tournament starting at 4 p.m. at Newell Hall. There'll be some food there. It's going to be a great time, just some casual ping pong. And that's going to be our last event, guys. Thank you so much to everyone who's came out to our events. Thank you to everyone who's participated. It's been a great ride, and we're so happy to have you at our last event. Thanks, guys.
Mock trial.
Hi, everyone. First off, we wanted to say thank you all for such a great season. I'm so proud of our competitives and non-competitive teams, and we've been so happy to be in this role this semester. And we have our final mock trial event of the semester, our non-competitive mock trial tournament tomorrow. And Sebastian will talk a little bit more about that.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sebastian, the other mock trial co-director. So yeah, we're very excited to have our in-house tournament tomorrow. Our in-house teams have been working all semester long on this. So it's exciting to see what they've learned and how they're going to do tomorrow. So it's going to be from 7 to 9 at the law school in Holland 355C. So if you want to check it out, feel free to stop by.
Yes, that's super exciting. I know you guys have been working so hard, so thank you. Okay, special events.
Hi everyone, my name is Peyton Reeser and I'm one of the co-directors for special events this year. Brianna, who couldn't be here tonight, and I just wanted to express our thanks for such an amazing year. Between both of the retreats we held and banquets, including our banquet, which was last week at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, we are so glad to have been your directors and have even provided the opportunity to plan for Law in the Swamp, which was a law school admissions fair that happened earlier this spring. I know our attendance is smaller tonight due to it being the end of the year and finals coming up, but thank you so much for the opportunity to serve this organization over the past year.
Let's move on to fundraising.
All right. Hi, everyone. To close out the semester, we have 2 final fundraising events. The first fundraiser that I'm excited to announce is our pen sale. We will have a Google form sent out where members can request to buy the pens. For clarification, 3 pens will be for $3 and you can earn 1 point for that, or you can purchase 6 pens for $5 and earn 3 points. The form will have an image of how the pens look like so you can have an idea of what you're getting. And the form will also include dates and times of when you can pick up the pens. Our second fundraiser is a spirit night at Huey Magoo's next Tuesday, April 25th from 5 to 7 p.m. Make sure to mention Pre-Legal Honor Society at the counter and to send me a picture of your receipt. I know this was a lot of information, but we will be sending out all the details in the group meet, so be on the lookout for that.
Public relations.
Hi, everyone. Banquet was amazing. Shout out to special events. If you guys have any pictures from that, I'll send my number in the chat. Please send them to me. I'd love to get them posted on the Instagram. Also, I know as the year is coming to an end, more of you are figuring out where you're going to law school. We'd love to shout you out on the Instagram. So I'm going to send the form. Also, you do get points for filling out the form. So I'm going to send that in the chat right now. And that's all.
Thanks, Sydney. Let's move on to law related.
Hello, everyone. As of yesterday with our Ice Cream with the Thieves event, which was a fun event, happy for everyone that came out and represented PHS at the law school. That was officially our last event of the semester. And from me and my co-director Ariel, who will speak shortly, yeah, this semester has been such a blast, guys. thank you for everyone who came out. I hope you guys learned a lot about what law has to offer as a career and all the opportunities that are present in Gainesville. And I'll pass the mic off to Ariel.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to add on a little bit to what Anthony said. I've really enjoyed getting to know some of you who've come out to our events. It's been a pleasure to host these events all year long, and I hope they were of value to all you members. Just want to say thank you, and it's been a good year. Have a good one, y'all.
Thank you guys so much. Community service.
Hey everybody, I just want to say also a thank you to everybody who came out to all of our events this past year. Thank you to everybody who came out yesterday as well. We had such a great time organizing closets at the Ronald McDonald House. And now I'm going to go and pass it to Julia.
Hi, everyone. So I just wanted to let you know about our last event for the semester and the year. It's going to be on Tuesday, April 25th. We're going to be making and putting out encouragement cards and positive words for people who are studying and just finals in the end of the semester in general. So that'll be from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. and we'll meet in Turlington. Hope to see you there.
Thank you. It's a super cute idea for finals. Okay, internal affairs.
Hey guys, just me tonight, no Raleigh, but on behalf of both of us, I just want to thank you guys for an exceptional year. I personally had so much fun, and the attendance that we had at our events all year was really inspiring for me and Raleigh. So thank you guys so much for that. And with that said, I would like to announce our last event of the semester, which is actually a repeat of what we did last semester, and that is a Opus Tab. So everyone can come, enjoy some coffee, work on their finals, whatever it may be. And that's going to be Sunday, April 23rd from 10:30 to 12:30. And that is the Opus at Innovation Academy, by the way. So obviously we'll send more announcements, remind you guys, but yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing everybody there. And thank you guys for a great year.
Thanks so much, Freedom. Okay, let's move on to mentor mentee.
Hey everyone, so our last mentor mentee event for the semester is going to be tomorrow at 5 p.m. It's going to be on Zoom and it's open to everybody, not just mentees, so anyone can come. It's going to be a Q&A with the mentors. Lane, I think, is going to send a form in the chat where if you want to come to the meeting, but you don't really want to ask your question yourself, Lane or I can ask a question for you if you want to submit a question, or you can come to the meeting and it's very casual. You could just like ask anything about law school, LSAT, literally anything you want. And then I guess on behalf of me and Lane, we have had a really great time being your mentor mentee directors the past 2 years, and good luck on all your finals and hope to see you tomorrow.
All right, and last but not least, diversity.
Hey everyone. First, I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who came out to our museum event. I know I learned a lot about different cultures reading those signs next to the art and looking at those really cool art pieces. I also want to thank everyone who's come to our diversity events this entire semester and this entire school year. They wouldn't have been as amazing and fun without you guys, and I'm so excited to be able to continue being with you guys on the ePort this next year. And I'm going to pass it to Daniela to talk about our final event for the semester, which is going to be super exciting.
Very exciting, yes. Our last diversity event is going to be on April 21st from 4 to 5 p.m. It's actually this Friday, and it's going to be at the Rights in room 2325. So come out if you want to know a little bit about Pride Month, just because we're not going to be here over the summer. And so, yeah, we'll have a lot of fun playing Jeopardy.
Thank you so much to all of our directors this semester. You guys put on some of the most creative and really great events. So just shout out to all of you. Big round of applause.
I am so excited to announce our speaker for tonight, Matthew T. Blackshear. He is a partner in a Tampa office of Schutz & Bowen, LLP, where he is a member of the Real Estate Practice Group. He received a dual bachelor's degree from the University of Florida and his JD and MBA from Florida State University. Matthew focuses his practice in the areas of commercial real estate acquisition, finance, development, leasing, and title and survey matters. He also handles general business matters, including the purchase and sale of assets and businesses, mergers and acquisitions, entity formation, commercial contracts, corporate compliance, and confidentiality matters. He has significant experience representing lenders and borrowers in commercial real estate matters and asset-based financing from both the transactional and litigation perspective. Matthew also has a wide-ranging experience in commercial loan foreclosures, receiverships, workouts, and restructurings, as well as construction litigation. I know so many of us are interested in real estate law and that whole side of everything. So welcome, Matthew. Is he here?
Hey there, thank you for having me. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thanks again for joining me. You guys are very organized. That's quite impressive. It's good to see. And thank you for asking me to join you this evening.
We're so excited to have you.
Thank you. As you referenced, I'm a real estate lawyer with Schutz & Bowen and the Tampa office. Schutz & Bowen is I don't know, 115-year-old law firm here in Florida. We've got 8 offices in Florida. We're only in Florida. We're very Florida focused. We have approximately 300 lawyers, I believe. Schutz & Bowen is strictly a business law firm. We don't handle like your typical slip and falls and personal injury claims and things of that nature. This is all business related law that we do here. That includes things like real estate, corporate, securities, tax, litigation, banking, creditors' rights, bankruptcy, healthcare, everything under the corporate umbrella. I've been practicing law for, I guess it's 20 years now. Makes me feel old. I have a bit of a unique practice. I do both the transactional side of real estate as well as litigation. I like being in both arenas. It's an interesting path how I got here. I'm happy to share with you. Most of the projects that I work on are things like shopping centers, hotels, office towers, any commercial buildings, developments, things of that nature. You've already provided the background, which is good. I didn't know you had all of that. My path to getting where I am now was a little unique. I focused my undergraduate as well as my law school and my MBA all on going into corporate law and anticipating being a corporate lawyer. The firm I clerked for was even very heavy on corporate law. They were also a very strong real estate law firm. Fully intended on being a corporate lawyer and accepted the offer after my clerkship. I was told I was going to be a corporate lawyer, and starting on Monday, they called me on a Friday and said, change of plans. You're going into real estate litigation. We need somebody there as soon as possible, which did not go over well with me because I hadn't even taken trial practice. And I had no desire to be a litigator whatsoever. They said, you'll be fine, and they hung up on me. So I showed up on Monday, started in real estate litigation. And lo and behold, I really liked it. It went really well. They threw me into my first, I was doing title insurance claims. And they threw me into my first hearing, I don't know, 3 weeks into practice. It was a contested hearing. And I was going against a guy who was, I don't know, at that time, probably 30 years senior to me. And I did exactly what they tell you not to do, which is I wrote out every single word I was going to say to the judge on a sheet of paper, prepared to read it to him, including, hello, my name is Matthew Blackshear. And I sat across the table from this guy who is so much my senior and watched him, because not all, you guys probably know this, but most hearings aren't in a courtroom. They're in judges' chambers. And so you're sitting at a table just across from your opponent with the judge's desk on the side of you. And so opposing counsel, this senior guy who's going to mop the floor with me, pulls out his sheet of paper and starts to read from it. He did exactly what they told me not to do too. And I noticed that while he was giving his argument to the judge, I should say reading his argument to the judge, his paper was making this noise and his voice was cracking and he didn't sound confident what he was doing. And I looked at Judge Cohen, who was very senior and well-respected, and he looked back at the guy, and I realized he's paying more attention to the paper that's flopping in his hand than he is to what he's saying. So I took my paper and folded it up and stuck it on the side and did part 2, which was talk to the judge like he's your respected uncle and talk with your hands and explain things. And I did that to him and I won the hearing. And then I walked out of there and said, you know what? I think this is what I want to do. And it was a lot of fun. And I continued to do real estate litigation, loved it. I was at a firm that had a program for associates. It was a large firm, a very large firm. And it had a program for associates where it didn't matter what you wanted to do. You were going to spend 1 year in a transactional practice and 1 year in a litigation practice. And then when it's your 3rd year, then you get to decide what you want to do and focus on that. And of course, as young associates, we all know exactly what we wanted to do, and we hated that idea. And most of us changed what we thought we were going to do after going through that. So it's actually a really good program. And in doing that, I did my transactional practice after, which was corporate, which is what I wanted to do. But a lot of the corporate work I was doing was for REITs, real estate investment trusts. And in doing that work, it involved a lot of real estate. And so I got more and more experience in real estate and decided this is really what I want to do is real estate, not just corporate law. So I continued to do transactional real estate, but also real estate litigation. And I've done that ever since then. And I really enjoy that. Doing both sides of a deal, or having, I guess you should say, feet in both arena, it really, I think, benefits the clients who come to you because, for instance, you know, as a litigator, what a judge is going to do with this particular provision of, for instance, a mortgage. It's a commercial mortgage and there's an assignment of rents. You know the little tweaks that you can put into your mortgage to where if it ever did have to be litigated, you can have that work out more favorably for your client. A lot of the standard documents or documents prepared by purely transactional lawyers, they don't have those tweaks to the documents, which makes litigation expensive and time consuming. And so they're good ways to kind of improve the documents and help the client both on the transactional front and the litigation front. I don't know how far you want me to go. I can tell you all the war stories. I can tell you what it's like in law firm life. I can tell you what it's like in associate life in this firm. Did you guys have any questions or anybody want to steer me in any particular direction?
Honestly, whatever route you want to take, if you want to tell some stories and then we can get into the questions. I know everyone's super interested in what you're saying about the stories and everything. So however you want to do this is exactly how we'll do it. There's no wrong way. Okay. Well, I'll tell you some more of the more unique situations I've had. And one title insurance claim, which is where, you know, someone, when you buy dirt in Florida, you should buy a title policy, period. If you don't, that's crazy, in my opinion. People miss stuff in the title records all the time. And there's nothing worse than paying a lot of money for property that somebody else owns. So if you get a title insurance policy, if you have a title claim, someone else claims they own it, you can make it somebody else's problem, title insurance underwriters, and you can get your money back. So in handling a title insurance claim, we had a property owner who claimed that the back part of his property was not intended to be sold and that he still retained this 20-foot strip in the back of his property. And the person who bought this building said, no, that was intended to be included. Long story short, what it turned out was there was, if you read the survey, a 6 looked like an 8. And these were old legal descriptions from old properties. So the surveyors put them in as 6s when they were supposed to be 8s, and they did it on both sides of the legal description. So what that left was a 20-foot strip of property at the top, and the person who sold the property claimed he never intended to sell it there because he buried his dog back there, and he intended it to be a pet cemetery in perpetuity. Of course, the real story was he just wanted to get paid for it because there was an error. But that was a little unique. We also had on the foreclosure front, I foreclosed a $250 million revolving loan
for a 4-tower condominium project on Panama City Beach. As a part of that, there was 3 lenders involved. Because lenders like to diversify. They don't want to be the only person on the hook for giant loans. They want other lenders to share the risk, but they also get the returns. So we had a 3-lender deal. It was supposed to be 4 condo towers constructed in a 4-leaf clover pattern with a giant pool in the middle. And the property went into foreclosure about 2006, 2007, when the market started to tank. One of the banks went into FDIC receivership. And because that bank was taken over, that bank cannot communicate or give its written consent that was required under the loan agreement. So when we went to have a receiver appointed as our remedy, which is when a third party comes in and takes over the project for a borrower and runs the project because the borrower is not running it properly. So by the time we were able to get a receiver appointed, the permits had expired for the building. So we wanted to build the 3rd condo tower, so that then we could sell all those condos and use that money to repay the loans that were owed to the lenders. But by that point, the permit had expired. And when the receiver went to reactivate the permit, well, lo and behold, the land codes had changed and we no longer met the impervious surface requirements. We had too much impervious surface. We needed more percolation, the water draining through the ground so it doesn't create stormwater runoff. So in order to meet those new standards, we had to scrap an entire project, an entire building. So it couldn't get built at all. And that was just because of delays. So that turned out to be a monumental loss for the lender, but they did get their property back. And it's a shame because it just, if the FDIC hadn't taken over the bank, we could have acted quickly and had the entire project built. We've also dealt with other things like easements to roadways. If you guys, I don't know if anybody's from the beach around here, but if you go to beach towns, beach communities, you'll typically have, and I'm in Tampa, so I'm just going to give you an example here. We have Gulf Boulevard that runs up and down St. Pete, Treasure Island, Madeira, all of these. And as you're driving down Gulf, if you look to the right, there's streets that take you to the intercoastal. And if you look to the left, there's a little stub street, that street, that crossing Gulf, and it takes you to the beach. Well, that's usually public access, part of the street that goes down there to the water. Well, we had a case like that in Orlando, but it was a lake involving a similar situation. And an association had let, it was association property, private roads, had let grass grow over this entire area. Nobody went down it. It didn't look like it belonged to anybody. So what's the homeowner do? Well, I guess like a lot of homeowners, maybe they fence it in and make it part of their property. And they try to keep people from going by their house to access the lake anymore. Well, another property owner decided, nope, I'm supposed to have that access. And so it was a giant lawsuit involving, vacation and abandonment of roadways. And it was a really interesting lawsuit, went up on appeal. We've got an appellate decision from it. But we run into funky issues like that all the time. Real estate is just, it's a great area to be into because number one, we're all in Florida. We all know the amount of people moving to Florida. Who can blame them? Real estate's always going to be hot here. And it doesn't matter what business you're in the real estate business. You can be a healthcare company. You probably have a 30,000 square foot office. Well, you need someone to do your lease. You need someone to do the build out. You may own property and have that same thing. So it's really a good career because in terms of available clients, well, you're not limited to people who just do real estate. My clients aren't just, real estate developers. I represent financial institutions, a lot of them, some of them headquartered here, banks, people that aren't traditionally in the real estate market, but they have a lot of sites. So the number of available clients out there is just kind of unlimited. So it really helps you grow your practice. And as long as you're good at what you do, you can be successful. And I'm a firm believer that, being successful is nothing but a product of how much time you put into something. And there's a lot of people that will go out there and attend a lot of meetings and do things of that nature to drum up business. I think the best way to get new clients is to do great work for existing clients. Get repeat business. It's pretty easy. You just have to do a good job. You do a good job, they come back to you. And those clients leave and they go to other employers. Well, they'll typically call you up because they liked working with you. Now you've got 2 clients instead of 1 client. Other issues we run into, another beach issue are the issues of submerged lands. You guys have probably heard in the news lately the stories about beachfront property owners telling the public to get off their beach. So it's a very complicated issue, but it's for nerdy real estate lawyers like me, it's really interesting. Going back to the original land grants in Florida, where was the water at that time? Because that's what matters. And figuring out who really owns this. And is that beach there because they pump sand up? Is it artificial or did it naturally get there? These become huge issues. There's a case, if anyone's from Tampa, you probably know Sand Key. The Seminole case on submerged lands is right there from that hotel. That took place right in our backyard. So real estate's really got all kinds of issues. There's not a whole lot of real estate lawyers that only focus on one thing. There's plenty of them that do, I should say that, but most real estate lawyers focus on a whole bunch of different areas. And there's plenty of areas out there. Even when you're doing commercial leases, you need to know a little bit about construction. I do an enormous amount of commercial leasing, and most of these leases are, somewhere between 60 to 150 pages long. And even after you finish negotiating these extensive landlord and tenant rights and remedies in the leases, you've still got a work letter, because most people who go and rent, 100,000 square feet or something, they want the landlord to contribute to the cost. So you got to figure out, well, whose contract are we using? When do I have to pay you? How much do I have to contribute? Do I have to pay rent if you're not done? There's all these sub issues that flow from it. So they're pretty complicated, pretty extensive. But for, nerdy dirt lawyers like me, they're a lot of fun.
It looks like Jordan has a question. Jordan?
Hey, yes. Thanks, Mr. Blackshear, for coming out today. Really appreciate it. I'm a minor at UF in real estate, and right now we're learning about REITs, specifically the difference between equity and mortgage REITs, and I find it super interesting. I was wondering, in your experience, if you could talk a little bit about a case related to REITs, and maybe just explain to some others who aren't really understand what a real estate investment trust is.
Sure. A real estate investment trust is basically a vehicle allowed under the IRS code that allows for tax deferral of income. What a real estate trust can and can't do is pretty limited. It's pretty strict. They have to follow certain guidelines of what sort of investing they're allowed to do in, what they're allowed to do with that money. And they're pretty popular. REITs aren't restricted to any particular type of area. There's believe it or not, there's REITs that are for tax certificates. Which is when you don't pay your taxes on commercial buildings, and then they sell the right to foreclose the tax lien, which can't happen for 2 years and 7 months. And so, but you're guaranteed a rate of return. And so people go out there, and there's REITs who do this even, who go out and they bid on these tax certificates. Well, if you have a tenant it's like a Publix isn't going to lose their property to a REIT or to a tax foreclosure. Publix is going to pay. We know this, this smart, well-capitalized, great company. So if someone could go in and buy these tax certificates, and they can bid down, because when you buy tax certificates, you start at a higher rate and you bid it down based on demand. Highest risk is going to be highest rate of return. Lowest risk will be lowest rate of return. And there's companies that go out there and they bid on these tax certificates, and they formed REITs like this, and this is very popular. I don't know if there are any particular questions on REITs. I did hospitality REITs. I did restaurant REITs. I participated in a reverse merger of the two largest U.S. restaurant REITs with a company that was headquartered in Orlando. That's a publicly traded company. There's a, REITs work is, if you're if you're forming REITs, you're probably in a tax group first, a tax and corporate group. Then the real estate activity, once the REIT is up and operating, that's when the dirt work comes in. And that's where, when I was doing a lot of REIT work, we were doing sale leasebacks, which is where the REIT would go and they'd buy the property from for instance, a restaurant opener, typically chains. We do 50 restaurants that we bought in the state of Florida, that sort of thing. And the REIT would buy the property from them. And then they'd turn around and lease it right back to the seller. So the seller never left the site. We just changed who owned it and then put this lease in place. And it's a triple net lease, meaning that the tenant pays all taxes, insurance, utilities, everything associated with it. And the REIT, or the entity, it doesn't have to be a REIT, that bought it and did the triple net lease back, knows I'm going to get this return. You're going to pay me, $30 a square foot guaranteed. It doesn't matter what taxes do. It doesn't matter what insurance cost gets to. I know that I'm getting that return. Well, when you have a triple net lease and the money you're getting, and it's a good quality tenant, well, you can take that to the bank, literally. You take it to the bank and what do? They get a mortgage. Because now that property, you have the value of the property plus the value of a triple net lease, which is a guaranteed income payment. So they can buy this, and a lot of companies will just buy companies and then or buy sites and then get a good paying tenant in there. And then if you sign them to a long-term lease, it's a good credit tenant, you've got guaranteed payments coming in. And now your property went from just the value of the property to the value of the property plus all of those virtually guaranteed income payments. And so now your asset just went up in value. So as you may have invested $1 million in it, maybe it's a $2 million asset now, and you can take it to the bank and get a 70, 80% loan on it. And if that covered your lease payments, well, then you can take that money and move it over to your next project, as long as your tenant continues to pay. I probably jumped into a few too many topics there. But like I said, nerdy real estate lawyer, I like this stuff.
Thanks so much.
Hayden, you had a question?
Yes. Hi, Mr. Blackshear. I'm currently in the process of getting my Master of Real Estate, so I find this all very interesting, and I loved your story about the hotel. I actually had two questions in terms of bank failure, one of them being related to REITs. So as in light of the bank failures and some people being scared with the news and everything going on, and some REITs buildings are turning back to their original lender, how is that going to impact the tenant and landlord in negotiations? It's my first question. And then what should tenants be doing to protect themselves?
Right. So great question, Peyton. So let's say you're a tenant, a very large financial institution, and you've got offices throughout the state of Florida, for instance. You've got all these spaces. You're going to go and put a bunch of money into space to make an office look really nice. You're investing in it because let's say you signed a 20-year lease. And your concern is that, well, the lender's going to foreclose. We know first in line, first in time, right? So without notice, so you can get foreclosed out in a mortgage if the lender was going to come back and foreclose on the property. So if you're a tenant and you're going to invest a bunch of money into the build out of premises that are subject to a mortgage that may get foreclosed, well, you need some kind of a protection. So what you do as the tenant is you go back to the lender and your landlord and you get a subordination and non-disturbance agreement. And what that document is, it's an agreement basically between three parties: the tenant, the landlord, and the landlord's lender. And what it tells that what the parties agree in that document is the lender wants to know, hey, if I foreclose, you're going to pay your rent to me and you're not going to fight me. And you're going to listen to me if I tell you that you have to start paying your rent to me instead of your landlord, my borrower. And what it tells the tenant is the lender saying, tenant, as long as you have this contract with me, this SNDA, I agree that if I foreclose on your landlord's interest, I won't foreclose your leasehold interest in the property as long as you're not in default of the lease. And so as long as you get an SNDA on a property like that, you should be absolutely covered. SNDAs are fully enforceable. They're three-party contracts. Sometimes they're two-party, but typically three-party contracts. And it provides everyone with the assurance that they need. But one of the other issues that you're touching on there, Peyton, is what's happening in the capital markets, the lending markets, with bank failures, concerns of that nature. Well, what that's doing in interest rates right now, I mean, money is getting super tight right now. I represent a very large company from up in Pennsylvania, and I do their Florida work for all of their industrial sites. And we did 26 sites, I think, last year. Average site was, probably $15 to $20 million. They haven't done any in Florida so far this year. So demand is cooling off a lot, and that's going to drive down prices a little bit. But the cost of capital is making it more difficult for tenants to do business, for them to carry on whatever business they're operating, especially if they're retail. So those tenants are having to, some of those are starting to fail. They're not able to make their payments. And then what's that do to the landlord? Well, a lot of landlords, use their tenants' money to pay their mortgage. Well, if their tenants aren't paying money, then the landlords don't have money to pay their mortgage. And then their lender's saying, well, I had to get paid. And then they're looking to foreclose on the property and to get their collateral back. So it's an interesting time that we're getting into. Money's still tight everywhere. I have a $43.5 million construction loan that's going on a beach project. But other than that, there's not a whole lot of big lending going on right now, at least that I'm seeing. There's still some stuff that's happening, but it's nothing like it's been for a long time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
I have a question. It's in a little bit of a different direction, but when it comes to litigation, what do you find to be the most challenging aspect of it? Like, has anything ever really happened in the courtroom that has caught you off guard, or you were off your game, or anything like that?
Interesting question. So, in the courtroom, not so much. I mean, you learn from a early age, never ask a question you don't already know the answer to. That typically, there's not much surprise litigation anymore. There's surprise depots, crazy stuff that comes out in depots. No, I've had a process server almost get run over by somebody who was trying to serve them, and they were trying to evade service. And so they drove across their flower bed, their kid's bike in their front yard, trying to get away. But in the courtroom, there's not a whole lot of surprises anymore. Going to court, everything is, and that's what I think I like about litigation so much is if you spend enough time on it, you've got a good chance at prevailing no matter what it is. Being prepared for it, anticipating arguments from the other side so you're not caught flat-footed. That's the worst mistake you can be, sitting there in front of a judge and have him repeat the opposing counsel's question to you, and for you not to be prepared to answer it. So you've always got to be prepared for the other side. Over preparation is obviously much better than under preparation. But there's just not many surprises that happen in a courtroom anymore. Wish I had a more interesting answer for that. But in the dirt world, there's just nothing that I can think of off the top of my head.
Got it. Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? I see a hand. Jacob?
Yes. First off, I want to thank you for coming today. I think it's awesome that you decided to show up and share your knowledge. And with that in mind, I'd like to ask a question, I guess, from the perspective of like someone who wants to like own home. What's the best way to sort of, like, from your perspective as a real estate lawyer, what's the best way that any like homeowner or business owner can protect themselves from foreclosure?
I've told everybody this, everybody I know, and you guys already know this, because you guys are in, I'm sure you know about it, but in Florida, you have homestead exemption, right? And so take, for instance, I don't know, let's say you owe somebody $20 million. They have a judgment against you. They can take your non-homestead property. They could levy on the judgment and take your non-homestead property. They can't touch your homestead. You can owe somebody $20 million. They could have a judgment lien against you. They can't take your house. The only people who can take your homestead are people that you agree can take it, which is if you grant somebody a mortgage on it, then you've agreed to that. Or if you had somebody go and do work on your house, you agreed to that and then decided you weren't going to pay them. So mechanics liens and voluntary mortgage liens. These are things that you've agreed to in advance, telling me, yep, you can take my homestead here's our contract. You can take my homestead if I don't agree to it, if I don't fulfill my obligations. I'm sorry, the other caveat is, of course, taxes. But the best thing you can do to protect yourself from foreclosure is don't have a mortgage on it. And there's a lot of people who buy the biggest house they can get for the payments that they can make. But if something happens to your income, you're probably going to lose the property. So being a little bit more conservative on what you buy, working towards paying off the mortgage. And once your property is paid for, your homestead is paid for, no one can ever take it from you unless you let them. But other sorts of mortgage foreclosure, I'm not sure if you're talking about in the context of a foreclosure action already being filed or preparing for it or what, but the best advice that I can give you is don't bite off more than you can chew. Like, be comfortable. I think that the worst, sites like Zillow and stuff like that, they say, how much home can I afford? I mean, you should make that decision, not a program like that. And what's going to happen. You should have a better feel for what's going to happen in your economic future, and be conservative in it, because you're going to be much further ahead of the game of people who did bite off more than they can chew. And someone I know from law school actually went out and had 19 homes in the early 2000s and was renting them all out. 19, very young lawyer, and lost them all when the economy turned and filed for bankruptcy. And he had to deal with all of that. And there's a lot of people who will say, I want to buy investment property. Well, that's great. I have investment property. I think investment property is great to have tenants out there paying rent, whether it's vacation rental, long-term rentals, anything like that. That's great. But be prepared for when your income from those properties just stops coming in for whatever reason. Because then what do you do in that scenario? And just as kind of an example from that, fortunately, I was okay from it, but I was pretty frustrated. I've got one of my properties. I couldn't rent during COVID. There was a short-term rental ban. So who saw COVID coming? And then they said, yeah, even though you have contracts with all these people to rent it out to them for the next 4 months, you can't do that. And so then because of COVID, short-term rental ban, there was zero income for 4 months from those properties. So expect the unexpected. And make sure that you're not over leveraged and that you're well situated if things don't work out exactly as planned. And on a larger scale, hope you guys all keep that in mind as you move forward towards your legal careers, if that's the direction you do go. Just as much as you map it out and plan it and know exactly what you want to do or might think you do, it'll change, guaranteed. But just be flexible.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Alex?
Yeah, hi. Actually, the way you kind of ended that last question kind of segues into mine. Because you mentioned earlier how in undergrad and even in law school, you kind of just knew what path you wanted to take going into corporate law. So I guess I just wanted to know a little bit more about that and how you knew you wanted to do corporate law over other kinds of law, especially when you were already in undergrad. At this point, I feel like I don't even know which path I want to take yet. I know I want to go to law school, but still a little bit.
Yeah, it's hard to figure all that out ahead of time. And like I said, even when you think you got it figured out, usually you don't. You just don't know it yet. What got me interested, I was actually at Florida, and I'm sure he's gone by now, but we had a class called business law. And the professor for business law used to dress up in these ridiculous outfits for every class because it was such a boring class that he would dress up in these bizarre outfits to try to keep everybody's attention. I can't remember his name, but I did pay a little bit more attention to it, and I started to like some of the concepts that were discussed in that. And at that time, I was dead set that I was going to be a stockbroker. But I got interested in the business law classes and thinking more and more about it. And I thought that maybe this is something that I'd like to pursue. And it was still in the business field, the finance field that I was in. And so it was kind of in that same track. If when you guys do go into law school, you're going to have pretty much, your set classes for your first year, and then hopefully you get a nice clerkship. And if you can get a clerkship at, a large law firm, you get exposed to a whole bunch of different areas. And the way that clerkships work at most law firms is you'll do a 2-week stint here, a 2-week stint here, and they'll kind of rotate you through some different areas because they want you to see the different areas that they practice. And some places will just say, no, you're just going to do this. But most of the large law firms will put you into different areas to give you a flavor for it. And you can kind of decide, this is what I like, or at least kind of get the idea of, I want to be a transactional lawyer, or I want to be a litigator and go to court. And when you're doing clerkships, you'll get the opportunity to go to court with lawyers. And I mean, that's just so you guys know, that stuff you can do now. If you know lawyers, there's most lawyers will be like, sure, come to court with me. And judges are quite friendly typically. They're excited to see people who are interested in going into law, and they'll probably spend a couple minutes talking to you before the hearing. But yeah, so I guess I'm digressing again, but it was that class at Florida that kind of got me interested in business law, and then continued with it. And then I also, I put myself through school. And so I was tired of eating ramen noodles, and I wanted to do everything I could to be at the next level in everything I was doing. And so I decided, when I was in undergrad, that I wanted to go to law school. I also had already decided that I wanted to do the JD MBA program to try to get me an extra leg up. And that's why I was so corporate focused. And I do like corporate law. I do still do a fair amount of it. But real estate law, I really do love.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Mikhail.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. First, I wanted to echo the gratitude mentioned from previous questioners. So thank you so much for your time. My question is, what do you see as your future endeavors or aspirations in your career? Is there anything that interests you about the future of real estate law?
So good question. My practice right now is focused on trying to keep up with itself and always trying to grow it. I'm a firm believer that if you get confident and cocky and sit back and think that you're always going to have, and let me back up just because you asked that question. The first lawyer I ever worked for landed a monster client when I was there. And I went to him and I said, you've got to be ecstatic that you've got this client. This is a huge win. And he turned to me the way he always spoke and said, Matt, let me tell you something. Never get too excited when you get a new client, and never get too upset when you lose a big client, because they're both going to happen throughout your career a number of times. All you can keep doing is working hard, and good things come to those who work hard. So in that vein, I continue to try to grow my practice. I continue to try to help clients grow. The more that they can grow and be successful, then the more work that comes to me and my team, and that helps us be successful. We're in I don't know how much you guys look into this stuff or read about it, but Florida is such a unique real estate market and world compared to everything else. You guys have a big opportunity if you want to be in real estate in Florida, especially because we're somewhat insulated from a lot of the other stuff that's going on. I mean, how much do you hear about businesses, leaving other parts of the country and coming to Florida Texas and South Carolina are seeing it too. These are massive companies that are coming down here to Florida. Well, they're bringing a bunch of jobs and a bunch of people. Well, those people need places to live. Well, they're going to need homes. Well, we're going to have to develop this property. And so it just kind of, spirals and continues to grow. I think Florida is in such a unique position that we're always going to have this influx unless policy changes in Florida. I think that this is going to continue for the foreseeable future in Florida. I think that there will be more large, extremely large companies relocating to Florida. And as a dirt lawyer, that's great for us. And just it's kind of a funny story because I'm doing a project over in Largo, and it's with a developer, and we're selling the property. And the buyer has been coming to us asking us for extensions on the due diligence period, where the buyer gets a free look at the property. They have it tied up under contract. They don't have to buy it yet, but nobody else can buy it. And they get to look at the property. And I'm just on this email string as the lawyer. And their broker comes to our broker and gives us, email about this long about how bad things are in the economy right now, about how the market's tightening up. Lenders aren't doing the loans that they used to do. Businesses, are backing off, expanding. There's less new locations. Everyone's really slowing down, and all this rationale for why we should grant them an extra 90-day extension on the due diligence period. And it was a long email, like this big. The broker, I didn't even get a chance to respond to it. I just saw it after it. The broker's response to it was, "Yeah, heard about that. Not in Florida, period." That was it. And didn't give them the extension, and we closed in 2 days. And they're going to close, even without the extension. So we're in a very unique position in being here in Florida. A lot of the other country isn't, getting the benefit that we have with that. But I think as long as, things kind of continue the way they are in Florida, we can continue to see at least a somewhat flat and maybe a little increase in the real estate market in Florida. And when things pick back up again in the full scale economy, I think we're probably going to go gangbusters again. I had a client, we do commercial or industrial site acquisition for them. They're out of state. I do their Florida work. They sent me their purchase agreement, asked me to look it over before they sign it. I sent them my comments back and said, "Look, this is the risk you're taking on with this contract, and here's the rationale for it." This was about a year and a half ago. His response to me was, "If I wait another 5 days to negotiate this any further, the price of this property is going to go up 5%. I'll just take this risk." So that's where people were a year and a half ago. It was a $20 million site. 5% is a lot of money. So it was that kind of economy we're in. I think we'll probably eventually get back there, but we're very fortunate in Florida to have to be insulated from a lot of the other pain that the rest of the country is going through right now. It is a great field to get into in Florida. And I'll tell you this, I have many people who I know who used to be real estate lawyers that are just developers now. They don't practice law anymore. They know what they're doing. They've been real estate lawyers, and now they're just out developing property, doing the business side of it and not the legal side of it. So there's a lot of opportunities there if this is something you guys are interested in.
Ian.
Hi. I had a question kind of about how climate affects different real estate laws and practicing law in different states. Like I know in Florida we have hurricanes and floods, and South Florida is sinking. So I was just kind of wondering how that maybe varies state by state. Does that play a large role in any sort of these conversations happening?
Sure. And so it's going to depend on what we're talking about. If we're talking about, a commercial lease in an office building, are we talking about somebody who wants to put a hotel on the beach? So we've got different things like that. So if we want to pull a permit and we're in a flood zone in Florida, you're not above, base flood elevation, which is, here I think is 11 feet. My house is 8.5 feet. I'm in a flood zone. But 11 feet, they have to be up. If you want to pull a permit to build a new, even a new house, it doesn't have to be a hotel. Your base flood elevation, the bottom of that house has to be up so high off the land, or they won't issue a permit. So they won't give you a permit to build the property if you're not complying with things of that nature. Your lender is going to require, flood insurance if you're in a flood zone. They're going to require, named storm coverage. This is all expensive stuff. But if you build your project and you build it, safely out of the flood zone, well, you just dropped a massive flood insurance premium. And it's really big in the Tampa area where I am right now. We have, new proposed flood insurance rate maps that are coming out. And it's changing the flood boundaries for a lot of areas, and where people typically had a very palatable flood insurance premium, they're seeing their, $6,000-7,000 flood insurance premium go to $27,000 for flood insurance. It's a lot. I mean, imagine if this is your house, and you've got a big mortgage on it, and you've got a
this shit's fucked up.
You've got a relatively steady.
I'm like a Zoom video.
You've got a relatively steady income, and you're not prepared to take on a huge, giant additional payment. But your lender is going to require you to have flood insurance. And if you don't buy it, they're going to force place it and charge you for it. And if you don't have the money to pay your lender for you, well, they're going to foreclose on it. So it can be a very sensitive, a very important issue in Florida.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
My pleasure. And as for, the climate change on the larger scheme of things, I've been in Florida almost my entire life. I guess the gauge, you've been hearing about it, my entire life. And I guess the gauge for it is would a lender who's risk adverse loan a lot of money on a beachfront property if they thought it was going to be flooded pretty soon? My take on it is no. I don't think lenders would be doing that. Lenders won't close if they don't have SNDAs from the tenants. I don't know that they would really want to risk, losing their entire investment. So I use, I think that lenders are a good gauge of where the real risk is. Just like they're not going to, loan money for you to put a house on the side of a volcano, too high a risk. Not very scientific, but I think that there's some merit in it.
Thank you so much. Does anyone have any further questions? Okay, I do not see any other questions. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate having you here. I think we all learned so much, and we are so grateful that you took the time out of your night and your busy schedule to come speak to us. It has been super beneficial. To anyone that hasn't seen, the attendance form has been sent in the chat. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Have a great night.
Hey, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. If anybody has any questions about anything, feel